today in Baton Rouge and what's been described as an ambush on those officers. More on that part of the story in a moment. 4 are injured, a total of 7. 7 police officers. I want to bring in now Steve Loomis, detective with the Cleveland Police Department and the president of the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association. And Steve, before we get to you, I want to kind of set the scene here. We're in Cleveland for the Republican National Convention, and it has been your task to make sure that people coming here at this venue and all throughout the city are safe. So I first want to get your thoughts on what's happening in Baton Rouge and then how it might affect here. You're with us?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, yes, ma'am. Absolutely heart-wrenching watching what's going on in Baton Rouge right now, and the reasons behind it. You know, this all began, the Dallas police officers being ambushed and murdered. Now in Baton Rouge, it looks like that's the same thing. This all began with a 911 call from an African-American male saying that another African-American male was pointing a gun at him. Those officers responded. That male didn't comply and tragically ended up losing his life over that with a gun in his pocket. This is how this began. The President of the United States validated the false narrative and the nonsense that Black Lives Matter and the media are pressing out there to the public, validated it with his very divisive statements, and now we see an escalation. This has got to end. We need some leadership in this country to come forward and put an end to this. I don't care if it's clergy, I don't care who it is, but somebody's got to step up and put an end to this, because it's the false narrative and very influential people that are politicizing the false narrative. Absolutely insane that we have a president of the United States and a governor of Minnesota making the statements that they made less than one day after those police-involved shootings. And those police-involved shootings, make no mistake, are what absolutely has triggered this rash of senseless murders of law enforcement officers across this country. It is reprehensible. And the President of the United States has blood on his hands, and it will not be able to come washed off.
You know, I hear the emotion in your voice. We heard it from the Lieutenant Governor of Texas, Dan Patrick, right after what happened there with 5 police officers killed in Dallas just a few days ago. And now we have this situation. I want you to talk about the fact that here in Cleveland, Officer Loomis, we have hundreds of police officers coming from all over. Does this change this venue in any way? And I want to be careful about the language that we use and not take this to an even more incendiary level, but it is what it is. You have a lot of police officers coming here.
We have a lot of police officers.
And they are targets.
Absolutely, they're targets. And this is proof positive that they're targets. Our legal staff right now is drafting a letter to Governor Kasich. We are asking for him to take emergency action to ban any weapons, open carry weapons, in Cuyahoga County at this point for the next week, because anybody that's going to have an open carry weapon is going to be treated and looked at in a hostile type environment. In this environment where police officers are being ambushed and murdered, anybody that has an open carry gun, we are going to look at, and we are going to look at very, very hard. And Governor Kasich needs to step up and seize the moment and take care of this issue with some type of order or whatever he needs to do to outlaw or ban open carry weapons here. I don't know what the details in Baton Rouge are, but I can tell you and assure you that anybody having a weapon on their arm or a weapon slung over their shoulder is going to be looked at in a much, much different light than we would normally look at, given the circumstances and what this country's going through. How the hell did we ever become the bad guys in this country? I cannot imagine how we got there. It's the irresponsible reporting of the media, and it's the irresponsible statements of people that are credible, like the President of the United States, like celebrities. If you're blessed with celebrity and you're blessed with talent, then use that celebrity for good and not evil. And what do we do? We have actors out there spewing venom. We have singer-songwriters spewing venom. We have athletes up here in Cleveland. We had an athlete that did something, that he since has apologized for. So I don't want to go down that road with him. But use your power. We have to come together. on this.
Yeah.
Every corner of this
Well,
country
it's
needs to come
interesting.
together.
It's interesting because this then begins to step into the ground of politics when you talk about the Second Amendment rights and banning open carry in a state where it is the law, even if it's for a particular time of a period of time throughout this. So that will be at that level. You talk about the governor. That will be a political and a public safety issue to kind of toggle back and forth with. And what you're asking is that they actually begin that dance and begin to talk about it. Before I let you go, I want to talk about securing a venue knowing that police are targets, and not just any venue, but it's our democracy on display for the world. We are blessed to have police officers come and give their time and energy and expertise to keep all of us safe here. It looks much like a military installation right now. I mean, I saw the fortification even before this happened as I arrived at the venues this morning in downtown Cleveland. You're from here, you police here, your challenge now going forward.
Well, that is a challenge going forward. History has shown us that we have to fortify the city if we don't want it to be trashed by a bunch of people that have no business being here, breaking our stuff and throwing rocks at us, and now murdering us. History has shown the policies and the procedures that we're employing here in Cleveland and probably in Philadelphia next week are written in the blood of our brothers and sisters, are written in lessons learned historically at these RNCs and these DNCs. And this is an absolute tragedy that this is the state of affairs in the United States of America, where the police officers are the enemies, and they're the enemies again because a four-time convicted felon who's got a gun in his pocket didn't comply with the police officers in Baton Rouge. And the President of the United States had very divisive words to say about that. And it is an absolute travesty, and I can't imagine a worst-case scenario for men and women. I'm going to have 600 Cleveland police officers out here at the RNC. We're going to have another 2,300 officers that are coming in from all over the country to help us with this. This is a great country. This is the only place in the world where you can come and you can say what it is that you want to say. And we defend the Second Amendment, and we defend the Constitution and the rights of people to be able to freely say whatever it is that they want to say. And let me tell you something. The new Black Panther Party and the Black Lives Matter movement that were down protesting in front of the 3rd District here in Cleveland last night, they weren't saying very nice things. And they were saying things that were insightful, and they were saying things that were very threatening about what they want to do to police officers and taking over the district and everything else. So I don't want to hear this peaceful protest nonsense either. There's nothing peaceful about that. You cannot, in this country, go into a theater. You can't go into a theater and scream fire. You cannot do that.
When there is not one.
Against the law.
Right. It's interesting. We have a judge who's going to be on board with us in just a moment, and Detective Loomis, I'll ask her about that. But for right now, to get your perspective on what it feels like to be part of, if you will, the hunted. I mean, this was yet another ambush on police officers. Thank you for taking the time today to give us your perspective on this. And you have a big job ahead of you. And I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. And all of those hundreds of police officers who are coming out, absolutely praying for you guys. Thank you for your time. I want to bring on board now someone who I turn to often when I'm back in New York. Steve Rogers is with me. And you're right next door where I'm from in New Jersey. And you and I have come together on occasions, now we're together in Cleveland, where this sort of thing has happened. But this time it's different. And you said it's different. Why, Steve?
Well, first of all, the Cleveland police ought to thank God for a gentleman like this who represent him, because he nailed it. What's different now, Harris, is that there is a pattern of assaults on our democracy. Police officers are the first line of defense against anarchy, the first line of defense against crime, the first line of defense against people who want to tear this democracy down. And there's a pattern. And this police officer whom you just spoke to, he nailed it. It's a false narrative from the White House all the way down to local levels of government that have added flames to fuel to the flame of racism.
Steve, in all the years that you were policing, and you were also, I should say, a former New Jersey detective and military intelligence officer with the FBI. So you have looked at cases of threats. You heard that police officer, Steve Loomis, talking about the threats. Where do you take that? I mean, that's language, and we're going to get to whether or not some of it is not protected speech. But you're down at a venue. We've been in Cleveland. I mean, I was here overnight, so I knew what was going on. I knew that in that 3rd district that they were doing what they were doing and they were protesting. But when you're in that situation, the fact that it didn't become something else is really a credit to those police officers, too, when you consider the back and forth that Loomis was just describing.
Well, listen, our police officers are doing a great job. I've always said we haven't seen a catastrophic attack on this country because of the FBI, the good work of the FBI and local police. Look, I'm out here. You've got to go through 7, 8, 9 layers of security. I mean, they've got this place very, very well secured. That doesn't mean that some maniac can get out there and target a police officer. So they're going to have to be doubly on their toes, and they're going to have to be looking out for each other. And Harris, we need political leaders in this country who are going to help these cops.
When I come back to you, I want to ask you about the